All right. So, whenever I think of courage, I think of superheroes. Superheroes like Superman, Iron Man, Batman, those superheroes. Now, these heroes are always fighting villains. They're protecting everyone around them, those they love, the city, and even the world. They may not want to do what they do, though, but they choose to do it because they make self-sacrifices. Let's take Batman, for example, in The Dark Knight Rises. I don't know if anyone hasn't seen this movie. Spoiler alert. He goes up against the villain Bane, and in the end, there's this big battle at City Hall, and that fusion reactor turned nuclear bomb threatens everyone. Well, Batman risks his life by taking the bomb from the city and into the bay. But is fantasy the only place we can look to see acts of courage and heroism? I don't think so. I think we can find them here and now. If we look out into other countries, we can see that there are people out there proclaiming their faith, and they're getting punished for it. Their families leave them, they lose their friends, their jobs, they lose everything. These people are always facing danger, and they're always wrestling with fear because they proclaim their faith and they get baptized. Now, Chris Tomlin writes a song, "Whom Shall I Fear, or the God of Angel Armies?" And my favorite part of that song says, "I know who goes before me, I know who stands behind. The God of Angel Armies is always by my side." To me, that sums up one great reason to never fear, to always muster up courage, or even ask God for courage, no matter what obstacle he may put in front of us. But the Bible also gives us many stories of courage and heroism. And in the book of Joshua, there's a particular story of courage and heroism. It's the story of Rahab. Now, in Joshua 2, 1 through 24, the story of Rahab starts out with Joshua, the son of Nun, sending 2 spies to go look over the land of Jericho. While they're there, they come across a prostitute named Rahab, who lets them into her home. But the king finds out about this and demands that Rahab turn the spies in. But instead of doing what the king asked, Rahab hides the 2 spies under her roof, under the stalks of flax. So when the men of the king come, she says, "They came to me, but I didn't know who they were, and they left, and I have no clue where they went." So in hopes of catching them, the men of the king set off, and the city gate shuts behind them, trapping the spies in for the night. Well, before they can go to sleep, Rahab goes to them and says, "Look, I know what the Lord has done for you, and I know that he's promised the land of Jericho to you. But everyone in Jericho is struck with fear over the Israelites. And so she asks for kindness for her and her family. And the spies make a deal with her, saying, as long as she hangs a scarlet cord in her window when the Israelites attack, no one in her house will be harmed as long as she doesn't tell about them." So Rahab agrees and sends the spies off back to Joshua. And when they get there, they tell him everything. Now, what Rahab did was courageous. She went against an entire city and her king. She very well could have faced death for her disobedience, but she knew what she was doing. It's what made her betrayal so courageous. So Rahab did something that no one else might do for the spies. She took them into her home and hid them. It'd be like one of us taking someone in our city or our school and being their friend. They may not be liked, but being their friend and talking to them, doing something that other people would not necessarily do. It kind of reminds me of a story of this girl at my school. Her name is Cheyenne. And she gets bullied a lot because she has to wear leg braces. And for the longest time, she was alone until someone made a choice. But when Rahab faced death for disobedience, she also faced redemption and love when she switched her heart to God and the Israelites. Now, I see Rahab's choice symbolized by two things. One being the old king, the king of Jericho, symbolizing the bad habits, the worldly things, and even death. And I see God symbolizing redemption, endless love, and even life. So, how do we bring Rahab's story or choice into the context of today? Well, it could be choosing someone or choosing to help someone over bullying. How's about I finish that story of Cheyenne? Well, one day my friends at lunch noticed that there was a girl who was standing there, and she had nowhere to sit. No one was letting her sit anywhere. And so they bring her over, they find out her name is Cheyenne, and they become friends with her. And Cheyenne sits with them every day for that semester. Now, during this semester, I hear that there are some of my peers who are making fun of her because she has to wear leg braces. Well, my friend's way of bringing awareness to this bullying done is to get these white t-shirts and write something in black that they hate about themselves. They got a big group to do this. This is my shirt right here. And let's just say that bullying quickly stopped, and now Cheyenne has some good friends that she talks to almost every day. And every time I see her talking to those people or even talking to me, I admire my friends for doing that. They did something that no one else would do for her. Those other obstacles could be like being Jesus to someone. There's always one kid in our school. There's always one kid in our school that is either a loner, they don't talk to many people, or there may be just someone who doesn't know Jesus. Go and be Jesus to them. Go and talk to them. Be their friend. Don't worry about what your peers think of you. I also see courage as accepting God, as giving up everything for him, not keeping one part of our life to ourselves. I see it as never being ashamed of him. I also believe it takes courage to even just walk his path with those obstacles that could be the bullying, like Cheyenne, being Jesus to someone, or probably even the hardest one that I know of, being nice to someone that we may not really like. I know I struggle with that. I'll admit that right now. And I know that I don't get along with them, but I know that God calls on me to show kindness to them, even though my human instincts are telling me to treat them the way they treat me. So, Rahab defined courage. She chose God over her old life, and she had no clue where God was going to lead her. So, what is courage exactly? It's choosing to do those things you might not want to do. It's choosing to do the right thing, even though it may be frowned upon by your peers. I've also heard of courage being described as not fear, or not the absence of fear, but the judgment of something else being more important than fear. So, we all have Rahab's choice at one point in time in our lives. And we all have to choose between two kings. Which king will you choose? Thank you.